Hello and welcome to Brain Injury Bites, a series of bite-sized podcasts helping brain injury survivors and their families and friends. My name's Ashwini and I'm a Senior Associate Solicitor at CFG Law. I act on behalf of clients who've sustained catastrophic injuries, including traumatic brain injuries. I'm also a Chair and Trustee of Headway Warrington, which is part of the National Headway UK charity, which helps support survivors of brain injuries as well as their families and friends and carers. I'm joined here by Brooke Trotter. Brooke, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name's Brooke Trotter. I was run over in Manchester when I was a student in 2007, the 15th of May, 2 o'clock in the morning to be precise. And I've lived with the residual effects of the traumatic brain injury ever since.
So this is a series of podcasts based around the experiences of sustaining a traumatic brain injury. And Brooke and I will be talking about his specific experiences and the advice that he can give for other people who might be going through a similar thing. We'll also be looking at what support can be given to those who are suffering the effects of a brain injury, as well as helpful hints and tips to family members. We'll be looking at the basic needs that someone has immediately after a brain injury and how we can progress them on in their recovery. And a lot of our discussions will be centred around a concept known as Maslow's hierarchy of needs. For those of you who aren't necessarily aware of what this is, Maslow was a psychologist who devised a pyramid structure of a hierarchy of needs, starting at the very bottom with what a human being absolutely needs to survive, and then moving up through the different levels of this pyramid to achieve their full potential. So your basic level needs, for example, could be physiological. They could be the need for food, for rest, for shelter, but then also add on financial issues, love, belonging, esteem, and self-actualization. I'd like to start really by talking about Brooke's experiences, and particularly looking at the first few days, weeks of your brain injury, Brooke. Could you perhaps share with us what happened to you, what your story is?
Yeah, it was a night out in Manchester. As I was a student at the time, and it was just basically a normal student Monday night out, and we'd actually been to see a band. My friend was mates with these lads who were in this band. They were called the Cortinas. They've since become a lot more famous, but they were just a lads band at the time. So we've been to see them. It was Deansgate Locks area of Manchester, if you know that. I was walking home. I was walking down a street called Oxford Road, and I crossed over what is it's Chepstow Street, and I don't remember, I've no memory of this. There was a car coming towards us from the left-hand side. The witness had said up to speeds of up to 50 miles an hour. He slammed his brakes on, he'd lost control of the car under braking, and the car had skidded. I'd made it over the road, and I'd made it to the pavement, but it skidded onto the pavement. He hit me from from my left-hand side. My head went straight through the windscreen. I was then obviously unconscious. So I find this quite lucky, really, because he'd driven off. Somebody obviously seen me phone the ambulance rather, and they obviously picked me up. Credit to North West Ambulance Service, because they picked me up. They took me to Manchester Royal Infirmary Hospital.
I think that it's important to note how quickly you were treated at the scene. Thinking about what we call the golden hour, if you like, in terms of addressing a traumatic brain injury. Just talk us through that. I appreciate you won't necessarily have any memory yourself, but from what you've been told of that first hour, what happened to you?
Yeah, it's pretty critical, is the first hour, because something that was famous at the time was a guy called Richard Hammond, who's present Top Gear. I don't know if anyone knows that, but he was driving a jet car along a runway in York, and he actually crashed the car, and he'd had a severe brain injury like me, but I think the difference is he was, if you actually watch the video of that, the ambulances are there within seconds. What happened to me was your brain has been rattled about inside your skull, and your brain's like any other part of your body. It just, if it's injured, it starts to swell. You get something what's called intracranial pressure, which is the pressure inside the head's building up basically, and the race is on to get that treated, and
because there's nowhere for it to go.
No,
either.
because there's nowhere for it to go. Yeah, and it obviously crushed itself inside. So kudos to the paramedics that treated me. They're called Luther and Jonathan, and I've met them, which was really
Shout
nice
out
for
to
me.
Luther and Jonathan.
Which is really nice for me because from their professionalism, I don't know how long I was there, but obviously I was taken to hospital pretty quickly, judging by the state of what I've been able to recover to now.
And I hate to use the term lucky because it really isn't, but in a way, in a sense, you were lucky that where your collision happened was actually relatively close to Manchester Royal.
Yeah.
So you were able to get to hospital within a fairly short time.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, very. It's a funny word. It's a funny word, that lucky, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's something that people who've got a brain injury get told that a lot of that they're lucky, but
it's not luck.
It's not. But yeah, it's fortunate that I was in that situation and in Manchester really, because where they have such good. I was then passed on to what is now Salford Royal, but was then Hope Hospital, which are one of the leading neuro units in the country. So if I was in my hometown of Scarborough, then I would have had to have been airlifted to the nearest neuro unit, which is Leeds or Hull, and I would have been. That's your golden hour gone, isn't it?
Yeah,
so,
it's time lost.
Yeah.
So no, the fact that you were able to get to your nearest major trauma centre pretty quickly has probably improved your outcomes.
Yeah, what they did with me was obviously they have to let the pressure out, and it involves drilling a hole in your skull, and I had what's called a shunt in my head, like a little valve in my head, and that's the nearest to brain surgery that I've had.
Yeah. And am I right in thinking that after that you were managed quite conservatively, as in they didn't perform any surgery on you, they just monitored you to see how you got on?
Yeah, I didn't have. I mean, you see some people with like massive scars on the head because they've had like a large section of the skull removed. I didn't have that. I just had it's a little. I've got a little scar under my hairline, and it's an excuse to shave my head in the past. But yeah, that's all I've got.
Obviously, when the collision occurred, you have no recollection of your the collision or what happened. There's something called the Glasgow Coma Scale, which monitors somebody's responses. Do you know what your Glasgow Coma Scale was?
So Glasgow Coma Scale is a level, a scale of 3 to 15, I think.
Yeah.
So it's scored on 3 different things. I think it's
so whether your eyes are open and whether you're sort of reacting to any visual prompts.
So, yeah, and for each one of those, you can get the lowest you can get is 1 point. So I mean, I was the 3 on the Glasgow Coma Scale, which is actually as low as you can go.
Yeah, gosh. So that's no response to really anything.
No response to anything at all, no.
Which is very serious, and I know that's often used as an indicator of the severity of a brain injury. So you were 3, and do you know if that rose? How long it took for that to rise?
I don't know how long it took to rise. No, but I'm just aware of the paramedics got me there quickly, and I had really good care. So.
And talk to us about the how your family found out.
My mum was obviously at home in Scarborough, and which is like 115 miles away, I think. and she got a knock on the door at about 3:00 in the morning, I believe, and which obviously my dad used to work away in the Middle East, so she was alone in the house, and she was pretty, obviously terrified to see the police at the door. And he said that his son's been involved in a really serious accident, and he'd got the nurse that was caring for me on the phone. She spoke to my mum, and she'd said, just you need to get here as quickly as possible. And something that's traumatized my mum ever since is she said, like, he is going to still be alive when I get there, isn't he? And she says, I can't promise you that, just get here as quickly as you can. And so, yeah, obviously she drove to Manchester. It's a pretty traumatic experience for my mum. My dad, he was in Azerbaijan at the time, and he said he'd got a call off my sister. He knew the time, what it would be in England back at that time of the day. And she said that, Brooke has been seriously injured. You need to come home. You need to come home now, Dad. And he'd got on the nearest available plane, but it's like a 5-hour journey back home. So one thing that was quite poignant to me was he had a mobile phone, and he was obviously off to turn your mobile phone off on the plane, and he was kind of reluctant to turn his phone off because he didn't know when he turned it back on again if he still have a son, because back when he was back in Manchester. So it was a pretty traumatic experience for both of them. My mum, when she got there, they took her in to see me, and obviously I think she said she would have walked straight past me. Obviously my head was swollen, like I was told it was like a watermelon. It'd just been through a windscreen, so I wasn't looking my best at the time.
Did anyone prepare her for that?
I don't know. How can you prepare anyone for that, I suppose? No. But it's just, I had this thing of guilt, really, which is stupid, but you do, don't you? Because my mum, she just lost massive amounts of weight when in the hospital. She was really traumatized by it, and you take that guilt on yourself, don't you?
Yeah, yes, and although it's easy to say you have nothing to feel guilty for, I guess, you know that what happened to you has had a wider impact on those around you who love and care for you. So you started off in Manchester Royal, and then you were transferred to Salford.
Yeah, Hope Hospital at the time, but it was Salford. Well, it's now Salford Royal Hospital.
Yes. So, what can you talk to us about the sort of the treatment that you were having there?
This was within a few hours. Really, it wasn't like a long stay. I was transferred to Salford Royal when I was still in a coma, and I went into ICU, intensive care unit, and I don't know what the timescales are, but I think I'd moved, I don't know what day it was. I think it was day 16. There was people just going in, could sit with, you're allowed one at a time, and people would sit, hold my hand, stuff like that. And I was, my sister actually kept a diary of this time. And my dad actually came in one morning and he says, come and look at your son, your brother's beautiful blue eyes. Oh, beautiful blue eyes. And because he'd gone in one morning to see me as he usually did. Yeah. And I had ever so slightly opened my eyes, and you could see the blue of my eyes. And it was quite a moment for them, because I was, waking up out of the coma. And that was day number 16. And I, from then, I'd got moved into HDU, which is high dependency unit, and then another ward called B8, and then finally a ward called C2 in Salford Royal Hospital, and that's the neuro recovery unit. And that's actually where my memory picks up, because I remember walking down the middle of the road. I remember walking down the middle of the ward, and seeing my bed, and I had all like my family put all familiar pictures of family and friends and stuff like that all around there, and I'd actually been in hospital in Scarborough about a year before for some drunken injury. I'd broken my ankle, so and I had to have an operation, and that's where I thought I was for the duration of the
okay. So you didn't know what
I even knew what room I was in. I was convinced of this, and I was it eventually took somebody to take me outside in a wheelchair to prove that I was not in Scarborough Hospital.
And you mentioned that it was quite a while later that you woke up from your coma, and then quite a while before you sort of can remember anything specific. And in a later episode we'll talk about post-traumatic amnesia. I know you don't necessarily remember yourself, but from what people have told you, what were your first words?
Yeah, well, everything from here is from what people have told me. The first words I'm actually incredibly proud of. I don't know if you should be, but I am. So there used to be a healthcare assistant would walk around like making hot drinks for the family, and or whoever was sat on me at the time, and they'd said, don't like a tea, coffee, or hot chocolate. And I used to have hot chocolate, and my sister was about to order hot chocolate. Bear in mind, I hadn't said anything to this point. They just thought I was, didn't know if I was going to be mute for the rest of my life. And just before my sister had a chance to say hot chocolate, I'd said, "Can I have half Stella, please, love?" And why it was half a Stella, I don't know. I can only assume because it was in hospital, and drinking pints is not the done thing in hospital, is it? So.
Well, excellent. Well, I'm sure that, funny as it is, I'm sure it was also of great comfort to your sister and your family. That I
think my family were like, "Yeah, he's back," kind of thing. So.
That's our boy. Yeah. So I think at this point it would be helpful just to share some help and advice for our listeners. And I'm thinking particularly for listeners who may be supporting a family member or a loved one through a brain injury, and particularly in those early days. So you'd mentioned, for example, that your mum didn't recognise you. She could have quite easily walked past you because you just didn't look like you. So I suppose what our message might be is, when you're visiting somebody in hospital who's just sustained a brain injury, to be prepared for the fact that they may not look like they should, that there will be tubes, it will be quite distressing to see. And perhaps it's also one for, clinicians, police, etc., to prepare the family for that, what they're about to see is going to be quite shocking for them.
I mean, there's only a certain amount you can prepare people for what they're about to see, especially if it was like a trauma, but and also just how they are as well, because you think you're going in to see that same person, but if they've had a brain injury, that person's changed.
You also mentioned about how your mum had lost a lot of weight, and I suppose that was with the trauma of everything that was happening, and obviously spending a lot of time, I imagine, by your bedside. But I think it's important for family members to remember that the importance of self-care as well, that to be strong for the person you're supporting, it's okay to take time out and look after yourself. And it's important, in fact, that, you take time out to make sure you're eating properly, to make sure you're getting enough sleep and rest, so that you can be strong for the person that you're supporting.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll get as much sleep and rest as they could do, but it's just certainly to look after yourself as much as you can. Yeah. And make sure you're eating is another thing, because if you although you don't feel like food, make sure you eat something. And because if you're not strong yourself, then you're not going to be able to give them the best care in the world, are you?
No. Did your family take turns when it came to sort of sitting at your bedside, or?
I think my mum and my immediate family were pretty much there all the time. I had friends that come in to see me as well, but I think one thing where we're quite lucky, well, I suppose it only applies to us specifically as a family because we're from Scarborough. My sister actually lives in Manchester, so that my mum just basically moved into my sister's house for about 6 months. And they just had that as a base, and they were going to the hospital from the start of visiting time to the end of visiting time every day.
Yeah. And that can also be quite a big impact if you're having to visit in a completely different town or city to where you live and travel. You could be spending a lot of time traveling in and out, or spending a lot of money on accommodation nearby. And I'm sure there's support available.
I believe the Salford Royal had accommodation there. I don't know how nice it was or what, but I know they stayed in those accommodations sometimes.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to ask for help from people. In addition to family, of course, there'll be friends and wider members of the family that will be concerned and wondering how they can help to support you and your family. And I suppose it's being able to say, you know what, I need some help. Please, can you, I don't know, put my bins out or bring me food or.
It's one time, I guess, you get offered more help than you know what to do with, and it's that's a time to say yes, and let people help. Because one, it'll make them feel better that they're doing something, and it's going to help you because they're helping you.
And there's no shame in asking for that support at all. But I think as well, and this is something that I've come across quite recently, the importance of asking questions of the clinical team. Obviously, the clinical team, their top priority is trying to get you back on track and trying to do everything that they can to promote your recovery. But it's also important that they take the time to communicate what's going on with somebody who's been injured, and that the family understand what's going on, what to expect, what's going to happen next. I know recently I've been working with a client and his family, and the mother had no idea as to what was going on. I'm sure COVID restrictions possibly played into that a little bit, but nevertheless, she just had no contact from the clinical team for quite some time.
I guess it's something that they're going to be dealing with every day, and they know like the back of the hand, isn't it? I mean, it's the families don't necessarily have a clue, so they have to start again with every new family. And
it's sometimes it's also just that acceptance of, well, they're in hospital, they must be in the best possible hands, which is fine. But it's important to understand that, this is where we're up to, and this is what's going to happen next, just to prepare. Going back to that point we made earlier about being prepared for what's happening. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to go up to nurses or doctors and say, can you just tell me what's going on? What does this mean? Because it will put you in a better position to understand how you can support your loved one. Thanks for that, Brooke. That was really helpful and really interesting to hear about your story. So in the next episode, we'll be looking more in depth at the initial treatment that you had in hospital, your experiences whilst you were in hospital. We'll also be looking at post-traumatic amnesia and the fake environment that you've described whilst you were in hospital, and the sort of memories in inverted commas that were being formed. Make sure you check out the footnotes for more help, advice and resources.